Hello, it's been a while, and few of you were already wondering where my Plethora X1 video was, so let's do this. tcelectronic have now released the third pedal in the Plethora family, the X1 TonePrint Loader, and as usual we're going to do our typical deep dive into it. But first, tiny bit of housekeeping. tcelectronic have kindly sponsored this video, but I am in no way limited in what I can say about the X1. They have no editorial control over this video, and they don't get to see it before it gets published. With that out of the way, what is the Plethora X1? So the X1 is without a doubt a part of the Plethora family. It's white, has a screen, stereo in, stereo out, and it has access to most of the TonePrint effects on the tcelectronic catalog, and more obviously says Plethora right there on the enclosure. But unlike the full-fat Plethora X5, this one, or the Plethora Lite, i.e. the X3, somewhere there, the X1 feels more like a diet Plethora, as it can only load one effect at a time, which, by the way, you can do by rotating the bottom right knob and choosing one of its 7 slots, very much like picking your effect type on a flashback or a Hall of Fame. And then, just like in almost every other TonePrint enabled pedal, you pick the specific TonePrints by flicking this little switch between pots A and B, and then you either wait for the selection to time out and load your TonePrint, or you just tap the foot switch and confirm the selection for you. So from here, you just need to tweak your parameters, which are assigned to pots A, B, and C, which now, in the case of the X1, just like in the other X3 and X5, will show you on screen which parameter you are tweaking and the respective range. And as usual on the Plethora series, you don't need to save the tweaks. They will be automatically saved for you, and as you tweak per slot, and automatically reloaded when you go to a different slot and then come back to the previous one. And while we're on that subject, let me try and clear up a point that still crops up every now and again. Whenever you load a new TonePrint to any slot, and this will happen in any TonePrint pedal, the pedal will physically read the position of the knobs and initialize the parameters that are assigned to those knobs. They will be initialized in the position of the knobs, not what was saved on the TonePrint. And then on the Plethora series, when you adjust the controls, the pedal will remember the adjusted parameters. So as you move from slot to slot, when you come back to the previous one, the effect will load sounding the same way as you just left it. There will be a bit more to it than just a simple explanation, but that is going to be for another video. So there you go. Now you know how to use the Plethora X1. I'll see you in the next video. Oh yeah, no. Not so fast. The X1 might be a smaller pedal, but it's still a Plethora, so of course there's more going on under the hood. The simplicity of the X1's interface and the one effect at a time principle means that it does away with the concept of boards. Or does it? Yeah, more on that in a bit. It also means that in order not to overcomplicate the pedal's user interface, and just like you would with other TonePrint series pedals, you will need the TonePrint Editor. And before you start groaning and booing, you only need the TonePrint Editor to select your effects and TonePrints. You don't have to jump into the deep editing unless you really want to, and I'll show you right now how to do the basic stuff. So if you're on a computer, you need to grab a USB-C cable, plug it in, open the TonePrint Editor on the computer, and if you haven't yet, go grab the latest version from the tcelectronic website, or your pedal might not be recognized. At time of filming, this is version 4.6.16. You might need to wait a bit after you plug in the pedal while the computer and the editor recognize it. So if it doesn't pop up straight away, let it breathe for a minute or two. Once the pedal is recognized, you should see a little blue highlight around its name on the library or templates tab. If you're on a mobile device, then you're going to start by launching the TonePrint Editor. Launch TonePrint Editor. And now you're going to click or tap the cogs on the top right. And then the first option on the menu is going to be connect to a Bluetooth enabled pedal. So you'll tap that and you'll see a list of Bluetooth media devices, which is empty for now. And then you press the little button on the top of the pedal next to the barrel connector for power. And you'll see the X1 showing up on the list. So tap it, wait until it goes green and says connected, tap out of there. And now I would recommend doing this on the PC or on the phone or whatever platform you're using, check for TonePrint updates down in the menu. So this is going to take a couple of minutes to run, depending on your internet connection and all of that stuff. But it'll guarantee that you have the latest TonePrints loaded onto your editor. So I'm just going to let it do that. Okay, now it says that it updated, so I'm just going to click OK. And now I'm going to reverse out of here on this. If it's on a computer, you'll probably have an OK or a done screen or something. So I'm going to carry on the computer. Okay, so now that we have the pedal connected to the computer, you can simply rotate the slot selector knob to whichever slot you would like to change. And either from the library or the templates tab on the TonePrint Editor, you will select the PlethoraX1, the one with the blue thingy around it, then open the effect pedal type that you would like to load into this slot, and then you pick the TonePrint from the list. So this will put you in TonePrint preview mode, but it doesn't store it to the pedal. So that only happens when you click the store in pedal at the bottom of the screen. And this, by the way, is the only way of selecting the type of effect that lives on any given slot. You can pick the tone prints that are already in the pedal by flicking the little switch. But to change the effect type, say from a flanger to a chorus, this is the way. And while we're talking about the TonePrint Editor, please allow me to draw attention to a couple of pedal options that might be of some interest to you. The X1 supports both buffered and true bypass, and it'll also allow you to kill the dry signal of the effects that sit on top of the original signal, such as delays, reverbs, choruses, etc. On the traditional TonePrint pedals, you set these options with physical switches under the lid or behind the back panel. On the X1 though, these options are set in software, and the way that you get there might not be obvious at first. So in the TonePrint Editor, grab any editable X1 TonePrint, and you can do this from either the user or the templates tab, not the library. TonePrints in the library are locked for editing, and you do need an editable TonePrint for this. So I'll just pick the first one I can find here, and if you remember from a moment ago, the X1 is now in TonePrint preview mode, so I'm not worried about losing what's on this slot. It's still there as long as I don't press store. Now, hit the pencil icon on the top right, find the product settings tab. It should be the last one on the right. This is where you'll find the bypass and the kill dry options. So these options don't require saving or storing, you just need to flick the virtual switches. But, depending on the platform you're using, you might need to come out of the TonePrint edit mode, go in again. This has happened to me on iOS, on macOS it doesn't happen, and if I just flick the switch, you can actually hear the relays clicking on and off. So your mileage may vary here. As for the kill dry, this will be of interest to you if you're running the pedal in a parallel effects loop and you just want the processed sound to come through without increasing the volume of the dry sound. Or if you're running a wet-dry multi-amp setup, you'll always also need this. And the last option you can set on this tab is the parameter pickup on or off. With this option on, your pots will only change the parameter values that are recorded when you sweep past those values in either direction of the pot. So you remember the whole autosave thing when you change slots? Yeah, this is the option that allows you to not do anything stupid if you as much as look sideways at a pot or try to flick the switch using anything thicker than a chopstick. It's an option that can be as useful as it can be annoying, so pick your poison. I find it annoying when I'm trying to quickly tweak the effect in the beginning, but it's a lifesaver afterwards because it lowers the chance of me just fat fingering my way from a perfectly tweaked effect to something completely stupid. So give both a try, see which one you prefer. Anywho, once you're done setting these options, and if you don't want to store the TonePrint in the pedal, you just tap away from the screen. Your pedal will still be in preview mode, but you can go back to the TonePrint that's stored in your pedal by just flicking the slot selector to another position, back again. Well, at this point, there's only one last thing we need to talk about pertaining to the TonePrint Editor, and that's the pedal tab, which gives you access to the boards section. But hang on, we thought the X1 didn't have boards, only had 7 slots, yada yada. Well, yes and no. The X1 only has 7 slots, the ones you see on the selector, but each slot has 2 sides, A and B, which you can access if you put your foot switch in AB mode, which, by the way, you can do by pressing the foot switch and flicking the little switch. There's a bunch of options there, but for now we just want to look at the A-B options. In this A-B mode, a few things happen. So the first and more obvious one is the screen. It'll change to inform you now that you have a B side available for selection, which you can do by long pressing the foot switch. And of course, short press does the usual thing of clicking the effect on and off, bypass, not bypass, long press, swap, yada yada. You'll also notice that the currently selected side of the slot is always highlighted on the screen. So both in on and off mode, it'll always be brighter, the one that's going to be ready to engage or engaged. So A white, B gray, A white, B gray. Swap the slot, which you can do in bypass mode. Now B becomes white, A is gray, which means that when you click it on, B is on. Now, the other less obvious change is that the foot switch will now activate on release rather than on press. So this is not as easy to show on camera, but on a regular mode, when you press, it switches the effect on and off. In this one, when you press, it does nothing because it doesn't know if it's going to be a short or long press. But it will activate on release. So if your effect timing is an issue pressing on and off, you'll have to keep this one in mind. Anyway, so back to the TonePrint Editor board view, which is exactly all it is. It's a graphical way of you seeing what's on each slot side A and B. You can't load effects, you can't change slot order from this screen, but what you can do is take a screenshot and print it, keep it on your phone, just to remind yourself which TonePrints are loaded where without having to open the editor. So that's it with regards to the TonePrint Editor for this video. But if you want to know more about the deep editing side of things, I'll try to remember to leave a link for you to my playlist on the TonePrint Editor. It's either going to be up there or in the blah blah box below. If not, please just tap into the channel playlist somewhere and you will find it there. Right, let's talk about the foot switch modes, which we can access by doing the press and flick. I might have to freeze this image on screen because this timeout is particularly short. There are 5 modes that are common to all effects. So that they will be mash, latching, momentary plus match, and A-B. We've already gone over A-B mode, so let's talk about the others. Mash is the now traditional foot switch TC mode, which integrates an expression pedal on it, which means that you can press and modulate the pressure on the switch and get some pre-programmed change in your effect. This mode is indicated by the mash words on screen when you flick to it, or when you load something, you'll see the mash symbol there. When you do mash, you can see the mash LED brightness change as you press, more or less, and the screen will also put a little ball on the screen to show you where you are in terms of pressure. Next mode, latching, and latching is the typical bypass toggle mode. Press off, press on. Momentary is exactly what it says on the tin. It'll turn the effect on while you press, turn it off as soon as you let go. And there's a little mom indication on screen when you load the effect. So it's that one up there, MOM. The last of the common modes is momentary plus mash, which is momentary plus mash. So you press, and as you modulate your pressure, it goes into mash mode. Let go, turns off. Now, apart from these 2 modes, there's 2 other specific switch modes that only show up for some effect. So if you load up a delay or a tremolo, you can see that you have a tap tempo option. And now your LED is blinking blue to indicate the tempo that's set. And I don't know if you missed it there, there's a BPM indication there on the corner of the screen. And as usual, long press and you're in tap mode, tap faster, tap slower, and it'll set the tempo for you. Short press turns off, short press turns on, long press goes into tap mode. Once again, mind the switch action. If the effect is off, it will activate on press. If it's on, it will deactivate on release. And there's a party trick for this. Once you enter tap tempo, you can just tap your tempo, and as long as you hold the switch down, you are still in tap mode. So tap again, like let me tap slower, hold, and now I'm going to tap fast, and I'm going to hold, and I'm going to let go. and it comes off tap tempo mode. The other final mode that we need to talk about is the ramp mode, which comes up on the viscous vibe. In the ramp mode, when you hold down the switch, the effect will ramp up to the high speed, then let go, and it ramps down to default speed as you let go. And you can see the LED is now breathing at the speed of the effect. It's a lovely nod to that one classic pedal. And once again, switch activates on press, deactivates on release. One final notice about the foot switch modes. They are all per slot settings, so each slot can have a different mode if you so wish. But the AB mode is common to both sides of the slot. You can't change foot switch mode on the B side, and if you try, it will complain at you. We have seen what the X1 can do, which is quite a lot. And we've seen how it does it, but what about what it can't do? It's still a Plethora at heart, but it is missing a few of the bells and whistles from the bigger TonePrint pedalboard brothers. So it doesn't have MIDI, it doesn't have an expression pedal input, no cab simulations, no tuner, no looper. As the TonePrint Loader moniker says, the X1 is essentially a single-sized pedal that can load TonePrints for almost every other TonePrint-enabled pedal in the range. And once again, I say almost, because there are a few obvious ones it doesn't do. So let's talk about those, some potential workarounds, starting with the blue elephant in the room, the Infinite. The Infinite is a TonePrint-enabled pedal, but it hasn't yet been migrated to the Plethora series, and we don't know when or if it will. That said, if you really want to, you can emulate the effect using a Flashback 2290 TonePrint, so go watch this video to find out how to do it, specifically the bit with the mash switch. Another notable absence is the Dreamscape, but in reality, the Dreamscape, as gorgeous as it is essentially a Corona chorus, shaker vibrato, and a vortex flanger 3-in-1. And John Petrucci's TonePrints have been translated for the X1, so you get the best of both worlds. You just have to do without the coolest graphics and pods. Finally, the bass-specific pedal SpectroComp SpectroDrive, they're also missing in action. That said, SpectroComp and the compressor side of the SpectroDrive seem to be essentially a one-knob hypergravity, so you can use that one instead. And if you really want the drive side of the SpectroDrive, yeah, I got nothing for you there. Have you tried reverb? The X1 also comes with a bunch of cool new TonePrints, but this video is getting a bit too long, so I might put out some shorts on those. Okay, so where do you put it in the signal chain? Well, as with everything with guitar signal chains, the answer will probably be depends. Personally, I like my time-based effects and some modulations after the amp, which is what I have here in this setup. But I prefer phasers and vibes to come before the amp, so if I'm using those, I might consider moving it somewhere to the front of the chain. It's going to be the same with compressors. Do you want a studio-like limiter effect? Then it has to go near the end of the chain. If you prefer a more guitar-oriented compressor, then I'll put it before the amp. And to cap this video off, let's just go through some questions that might become frequently asked. So QTM beefer, if you will. Can you load TonePrints that were user-created for other pedals or other Plethoras? No, not directly. You will need to recreate them specifically for the X1 by connecting the editor and tweaking the parameters again. Next, can you export, share, import other user TonePrints? Still a nope for now. It would be really great to have it, as we've been waiting for that particular feature for yonks now. But so far, no, not yet. And what about gain pedals and amp simulations? Does it come with any? And that will be the third nope in a row. The Plethora concept has never included gain pedals, only the effects from the TonePrint series, and I know the old response, TC doesn't have any digital amp or gain pedal simulations. That no longer applies because amp works. But the amp works are in TonePrint, so there's that. Also, I'm not sure it would make as much sense in a single slot effects pedal as it would on the larger Plethora, so maybe it's just a moot point. Lastly, the website says the X1 is analog drive-through. Is it really? Well, yes, we just broke our nope streak. I have personally tested it and I can confirm that it is indeed analog drive-through, with the obvious caveat that it is only valid for effects that sit on top of the dry sound rather than the ones that modify it outright, but yes, it is. Anywho, on that excellent note, that will be it for this video. If you have any questions or comments, please drop them in the appropriate space to do so. And if you want to help support the channel, just click the affiliate links before you go off and satisfy your gas urges. I will see you next time and have a great 2025.